everyone. This is Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. I hope y'all had a wonderful Christmas. It is 2 days after Christmas as we record this. It is December 27th. I wish I could have done this particular live training yesterday because yesterday was the first day of the 12 days of Christmas. We're going to talk about the 12 days of Christmas today. We're going to talk about the Feast of Epiphany. And what do you do after Christmas? Is there this big letdown? Or do we continue some celebrations? I discovered when the kids were in high school, there were other things that we could be celebrating, other things that we could be doing to really pour Jesus into our kids and the way that we celebrate his birth as well. So that's what I want to talk to you about. Let me know if you're finished celebrating Christmas by leaving a comment, whether you're listening to the replay or the live, or let me know if your Christmas tree is still up. Yes, mine is. Mine is actually, I keep watering it and it keeps drinking. So it is like very soft for 4 weeks. All right, so let's talk about this. Christmas was on Sunday, and it depends on what church you're in. Some people begin the 12 days of Christmas on Christmas Day. Some begin it the next day. But there are 12 days between Christmas and the Feast of Epiphany, or the Feast of the Wise Men, or the Feast of the Three Kings. It's called a multitude of things. So what am I talking about, and how can you pull this into your holiday Christmas celebration, or even into your homeschool? First of all, you could have your kids look up and find out what the word epiphany means. Epiphany. Besides just having an epiphany, it is the holiday of light when the star of Bethlehem led the Magi, the wise men, to the Christ child. He was about somewhere between 1.5 years and 2 years old. So when you see those manger scenes with the wise men there, they really weren't at the stable. They went to see him later. And you can read all about the wise men in Matthew 2. I'm not going to go over that right now. But Epiphany means to show or to reveal. The wise men were the first ones to worship Jesus as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. They were Gentiles. You see, everything beforehand had been to the Jews. They were Gentiles. They were recognizing Jesus Christ as King. They were the first ones to reveal Jesus to a wider world as the incarnate Christ. So you could do some things with your kids. Look up, what does the word epiphany mean? What does the word incarnate mean? It actually means Christ in flesh. He came down to earth and he took on flesh. So those are a few things you could be doing in between Christmas and the Feast of Epiphany. We actually developed some Epiphany traditions based in between. And I've done some different things. I did some things with the grandkids that I didn't do this year. But let me just tell you a few things. That's what I was going to go look for. First of all, we spend this time writing thank you notes. My kids learn to write good thank you notes. I actually have a free template that you are more than welcome to grab. I was meaning to put that in a comment and I forgot to go get the link. So I will put that when this is done. So write thank you notes, and don't just say, "Dear Grandma, thank you for the toy soldier, Joey." Have your kids write at least 3 sentences. And if they're too young to actually think and write and all of that, let them dictate it to you and you write it out, and then they can color or put stickers. My 5-year-old granddaughter made me a Christmas card. It wasn't really one from scratch. It was just a Christmas card, but she had drawn all over it, added stickers, snowflakes, and Christmas trees. She was very proud of it. So even young kids can begin to send thank you cards. It is a lost art, and I think it is something that is so valuable. If you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that my kids complained about writing thank you notes. But they are really good at thanking people and sending thank you cards now. Now, Gentry actually said, "I don't do it as much now," but I know Hunter writes, and some may be digital, but can you imagine when you get something in the mail and it's not a bill and not just junk mail? That is pretty cool. So that is what we did. I wanted my kids to get their attitudes off themselves and their gifts and thank the people that had given them gifts. So that's one thing we did. The second thing we did and we began to do is celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. I do have a link in the description. It's our Christmas celebration ebook. I don't have time to go through all of it, but it goes through each of the gifts and tells what the spiritual significance of it is. A partridge in the pear tree is a picture of God's love for us, his love. Two turtle doves, that is a picture of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Why did they do this? Well, what I have read, it may be a legend, but what I have understood is the 12 Days of Christmas song was code for spiritual things that were not allowed during the Middle Ages in certain places for them to talk about. So as they sang that song, it would bring to mind and remember these spiritual truths that God had given them. 5 golden rings are the 5 books of the law: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. You can get all that information in our Christmas celebrations ebook because it goes through Advent, which we've already done, Christmas, and then it goes through Epiphany. So that is another thing that you can do. I actually, the last 2 years, gave I had 12 bags for each of my grandkids, and they got a little gift. So when it was the Old Testament, New Testament, I usually give them some of my homemade bread because that is a picture of the word of life, is the bread of life. Something like that. All right, so writing thank you notes, celebrating the 12 days of Christmas. And if you listen to the end, I have some 12 free gifts for you that you can get right at the end of this. So the last thing is the Feast of Epiphany, which is celebrated January 6th. And I did some research on this, and there's a many ways you could celebrate it. But the biggest thing is we want to remember and honor and celebrate the wise men that came to worship Jesus Christ. That's why it's either the Feast of Epiphany, revealing and worshiping him, or the Feast of the Three Kings, the Feast of the Wise Men. So one thing you can include in this are oranges. Oranges are a symbol of sunlight, which reminds us of that Star of Bethlehem that was over Jesus's home when when he was under 2 years old. That light guided the wise men to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I know that in Gentry's family, they actually get a clementine or an orange in their stocking every year. And I was telling them, well, did you know that's a symbol of light? And Jesus is the light of the world. So you are actually giving something that can remind us that Jesus is the light of the world. It is a chance to celebrate and honor the wise men. And another thing you could do is really go through Matthew 2 from now until January 6th. Read through it. Look for the 9 clues of what the Star of Bethlehem is. And just talk about it. Really dig into that passage. If you want some helps, I have our Star of Bethlehem Family Bible Study that you are welcome to grab. I will put a link to that as well. So we've got a lot of resources and helps for you as well. So 12 days between Christmas and the Feast of Epiphany are really 12 days after Christmas, not 12 days before. Have you ever celebrated the Feast of Epiphany? If you are listening to the replay or the live, leave a message, a comment, and let me know if you have and what you do to celebrate the Feast of Epiphany or the Feast of the Three Kings. Now, excuse me, I said if you stay to the end, I have 12 free gifts. That is because my friend Andrew Pudawa at IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing, is giving away 12 gifts of Christmas. I'm going to put this, I did save this URL. Well, hello, Laura. Thank you for being here. She says, we bless our home by prayer walking and praying over each room in our home and the outside of our home as well. That is cool. And I may share that with some other moms. I thank you for sharing that. I did just leave a link to the 12 gifts of Christmas from IEW. Today is the second day, and every day for 12 days, they are giving away a free gift. You must get it on that day. You can sign up at the link I just shared. And when you sign up, they will send you a reminder to go get that day's free gift. Today is the gift of teaching students to think. You won't believe. Listen, on the second day of Christmas, IEW gave to me stimulating resources to help me teach students to think. Here's what you get. A lesson from Structure and Style for Students, that's their student course, Year 1, Level B of Andrew Pudawa teaching the skill of asking questions. You get a download of 3 sets of Unit 5 pictures that go along with question asking. You get an audio recording of Andrew Pudewa's talk on fairy tales and moral imagination. And then you get 3 podcasts: the 5 canons of rhetoric, the part 1 and 2, that's 2 of them, and then thinking, the quintessence of the 4 language arts. Hurry and get them now, because today is the only day you get all of those free. Tomorrow they will be gone. Now, the other thing that you will get when you go to that link is you can get a code to get free shipping on any IEW resources from now through the 12 gifts of Christmas. You will also have a chance to be entered to win one of 16 $100 gift certificates. They are giving away 16 gift certificates that are worth $100. If you don't know this, I used IEW throughout our entire homeschooling years. I loved it. It changed the way changed my kids' attitude. It changed their approach to writing. I still use some of IEW's ideas in my own writing for blog posts or whatever I'm writing, even books as well. And so I highly recommend them. If you've never heard of them, go sign up. Let's get some free gifts and see if this is a good fit for you. So today is the second day of Christmas with IEW, and you will be getting stimulating resources that will help you teach your kids, your kiddos, to think. Isn't that what we want? And I'm going to be talking, especially starting next week. January is all about leadership education, and part of that is teaching our kids how to think so they can make wise decisions and think through the issues of the day. We'll start with character, love of learning, those kinds of things. But part of what we'll be talking about in January is teaching our kids how to think. So go get your freebies there. The link is there. If you can't do it, I can also tell you can go to IEW.com/Carrie Beck, and you can scroll down a little bit and you'll see the same thing and just click on it and get all that information. So I would love to hear what you do for Epiphany. What are you doing between this today and January 6th? Laura says they pray over each room. I just think that's great. What a great way to start the day. You know, you could also go prayer walking. You could go prayer walking in your neighborhood and pray over your neighbors as well. That would be a good way to start the new year. All right, thanks so much for spending time with me. I am Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. We'll talk to you later.